Tell me that we'll be just fine, even when I lose my mind. By Half Milk and Light Illusions. Chuuya stomps his way into the kitchen, ignoring the pair of footsteps trailing behind him. He'll deal with whatever the bastard wants when he gets some alcohol buzzing through his veins. Walking to a wine rack up against a wall, he quickly pulls out a cheap bottle with a flavor he isn't fond of. It's not like he's planning on savoring the taste tonight, only wishing for something to dampen his emotions. And it'll just get him angrier if he manages to grab one of his better wines. Harshly placing the bottle onto his marble countertops, he snags one of his many wine glasses, setting it next to the container of red liquid. Chuuya, I didn't mean to. He ignores the brunet and instead focuses on cutting the foil around the top of the bottle, pulling out a corkscrew from a drawer slightly below him to begin the process. Lifting it upwards, the ginger makes the first incision on the foil underneath the second lip on the front side before doing the same on the back. He wants to get this wine into a glass as quickly as possible so that he can go take a hot bath. It'd clean and calm him down enough to have an easier conversation later in the night, or hopefully, he'd pass out and wouldn't have to deal with any of this until the end of tomorrow's work shift, considering he's not planning on taking the day off. I'm truly sorry. Except his plans begin to derail the second the person behind him begins to open their blubbering mouth. He slams the corkscrew on the table, turning to face Dazai. Coldly, he says, I don't want to fucking hear it. Chuuya! His partner takes a step closer, arm reaching out. I didn't intend for it to happen. It being the death of all his men that the older entrusted to be on the mission. Like hell you didn't! Slapping the brunette's hand away, the mafioso takes a step back. It was your fucking plan! Chuuya knew it'd be a difficult mission ever since he got a file detailing what was needed of them, which is why he invited others to help double black. They were supposed to be a backup crew, in case anything went wrong. Maybe even smother out any problems they'd encounter in order to, and he'd hoped this selfishly, avoid the use of corruption. Dazai had never shown any disapproval to the idea of having more people with them, so he thought he'd be fine, but clearly he was just being stupid and naive because nothing on this mission went right. I don't know, Chuuya scoffed. You didn't know that it would kill dozens? The other bit his lip slightly and looked away, silently confirming the ginger's suspicions. That bastard killed his subordinates, the people who entrusted him to keep them safe, the ones with families who were trying to make ends meet. It'll be okay, Chuuya. Dazai starts slowly, as if unsure whether the mafioso will take his words the wrong way. We can start planning their funerals soon if you need. No! I don't want to plan their funerals. I don't want to plan anyone's fucking funeral anymore, Chuuya yells. He can feel his eyes tingle from frustration, and he blinks a few times to stop any extra wetness from pooling into his tear ducts. Dazai's face softens slightly, his body shuffling forward a step. I know this is hard, but you don't have to do these things alone. We can plan the funerals together. I don't want to plan the goddamn funeral with you either, asshole. You're the reason they died in the first place! I promise I didn't mean it. Dazai looks like his mask is unraveling, and cruelly, Chuuya feels a sense of satisfaction. I would never want to hurt you like this. The ginger scoffs. Really? Because you used to pull this kind of shit all the time when we were teenagers. And I wouldn't put it past you to do it now. No, Chuuya, I've been trying to be a better man now, to grow past what I did in the mafia. Well, you're not doing a good job at that. Not when you make some stupid plan to get all my friends killed and then sit there pretending you've grown as a person. He couldn't stop himself from saying, maybe you'll always be the demon prodigy. He realizes he went too far as soon as the words left his mouth. He realizes it before Dazai stands rigidly still, with a disturbed look of distress painting his face. For a moment, they stand there, staring at each other, fear slowly growing in the younger's eyes, pushing the ginger to try and rectify his actions. Dazai, I'm sorry, comes a small, shaky voice. Chuuya finds himself unable to speak, his words lodged in his throat, and instead listens to the thud of the brunette's knees hitting the ground. He feels the way trembling hands clutch at his pant leg, pulling him towards the other. I'm sorry, Dazai cries, fingernails digging into the ginger's thigh. They tug down his pants ever so slightly as pale, bony hands slowly fall down the leg until they shift upwards to grab another part. I'm sorry. Warm tears seep in through the dress pants as the bandaged man presses his cheek even closer into the fabric, head twisting and turning around in the limb, while he just keeps repeating, I'm sorry. Chuuya's wide eyes stare, shocked as his lover admits a broken, heart-wrenching sob. His voice cracks as he continues to say the same 2 words endlessly. It feels like they're 17 again, and Dazai has decided that the redhead was someone safe he could break down in front of. He balls his fist tightly, nails digging in through the gloves to add an amount of pressure that could bruise. Closing his eyes, he breathes in for 4 and exhales quickly before looking down at the brunette. If he begins yelling at Dazai now, he'll just fuck everything up and make it harder to fix the other's mental health issues. He needs to take a calm approach in order to get the mackerel back to his senses. He leans over, bringing a hand up to rake a few fingers through soft curls in an attempt to placate the toddler, wishing hopefully that a simple action would do the trick. It doesn't. He isn't able to calm the other down, and instead makes the situation worse when glassy brown eyes filled with fear look up at him. He quickly decides on a different approach that had soothed him before when they were both still dumb kids, and he still exactly doesn't know what is going on here. Kneeling down in an awkward crouch, he notices as the hands clinging to his leg transfer over to his waist, clutching at the vest on his torso. They soon begin to pull at the expensive fabric as his body's weight falls against Chuuya's, head moving to rest on his shoulder. Despite this, the cries never cease, nor do the apologies. Guilt pools in the corners of his mind, arms immediately moving to envelop the trembling body in an attempt to comfort. One hand gently places itself upon tangled brown hair before slowly weaving its fingers in between the strands. Dazai's face quickly twists around as he wipes his tears against the ginger's collar. "I'm sorry." "It's okay," he responds, wishing that the brunette would find solace in those simple words and end his crying. With a clearer mindset, not clouded by his panic, there'd be a better chance of him actually understanding the emotions Chuuya holds for his fallen comrades. Maybe he'd be able to see that no amount of care he has for them would be enough to warrant his lover breaking down. Instead of calming like what he had hoped would happen, Dazai only continues to sob inside of his arms, occasionally letting out apologies for his actions. Chuuya tries his best to quiet the sounds with soft, soothing whispers, making sure to keep running his fingers through his hair, but it hardly seems to help with the distress running through the toddler's body. Still, he embraces them firmly. The fact that he's here, attempting to ease his lover's mind, will aid Dazai even when nothing else works. Slowly, he begins to rock their bodies side to side in an additional way to alleviate the stress. A particularly deafening sob rakes through the younger's frame, his head nuzzling further into the ginger's neck as he tightens his grip onto the vest. Any noise that comes from the bandaged man is unfiltered in volume, and with him being so close to his ear, it hurts whenever more cries are emitted from his mouth. Chuuya's brain urges him to move away as the obnoxious sounds flood his eardrums, but he only squeezes his lover tighter, even if he's still upset at him. The care he holds for his mackerel is far too high to separate Dazai from the only bit of comfort he has. Somewhere in his mind, he wonders if the younger realizes how loud he currently is, the most likely answer being that he can't acknowledge it due to all the panic swirling in his brain. Eventually, the weeping dies down with the brunette laying limply in Chuuya's arms, silent except for slight sniffles, occasional whimpers, and muffled mumbling of what the ginger can only assume is another apology. "Hey." Chuuya lightly pats Dazai on the head to get some of his attention. "I forgive you, okay? You don't need to keep apologizing." His partner shifts against his clavicle as he finds a better spot to rest, placing his face a bit higher onto the ginger's shoulder. He doesn't do anything more, even to show that he understands what Chuuya said, but after a long pause and another sorry, he resorts to staying silent. Chuuya just continues on helping him calm down with rocking motions and hushed words, allowing him to find solace in the tight embrace, even if it pains him to do so. He's still frustrated at the brunette, and a quarter of his mind does want to kick and scream for what happened on the mission, but Dazai clearly needs something calm and stable right now. He sighs quietly. They'll be able to sort out their grievances later, once Dazai is in a better mental state. Until then, he'll have to just focus on keeping his emotions bottled up inside, where they won't cause any more harm. A few moments later, Dazai seems well enough for conversation. He lightly taps his back before speaking. "Do you want to go to bed now?" The brunette turns away from the inside of the crook of Chuuya's neck, settling near the edge of his shoulder to breathe better. After a minute with no answer, the ginger pats the mackerel again. You reminded me of Mori, comes the eventual reply. Words disregarded the question that was asked. His response makes Chuuya freeze. Dazai, I didn't... It's fine. He cuts him off. I don't care anymore. The mood sours for the second time this night. It doesn't seem like you don't care, is what the older wants to say, but he bites his tongue. It's not the place for that. Not when Dazai's in such a fragile state of mind. Not when he would be incapable of wording his syllables for a gentle approach. Okay, he says instead. They don't speak. The air holding a slightly tense atmosphere as they remain seated. Chuuya resumes his movements through the other's hair, scratching at his scalp in circular motions, getting rid of the tightness in the brunette's shoulders with his soft touches. His other hand rubs up and down the taller's back. After a moment of silence beside his quiet exhales and sniffles, Dazai's breathing slows significantly, signaling that it's time for Chuuya to take a sleeping mackerel to bed. All of the crying had probably worn him out to a point where even his insomnia couldn't keep him awake. He starts the process of getting them to sleep by gently uncurling the fists still holding his clothes, lightly setting them next to the younger after removal. Tightening the arm that was rubbing Dazai's spine, he slips the other limb beneath the bandaged man's legs, easily picking him up. He tries not to jostle Dazai too much on his walk to the bedroom, hoping to keep the man asleep, but it was hard enough getting him to rest on a good day. He can't imagine what excuses or tricks he'll try to keep Chuuya from putting him to bed if he managed to wake up this time. When he enters the room, he's careful not to hit the brunette's lanky legs on the doorway as he makes his way over to the bed. Laying Dazai on their shared mattress, he takes off his beige coat before undoing the bolo tie and button-up, removing the pants afterwards. He strips him of everything besides the bandages and underwear. He quickly undresses himself as well, throwing their clothes in a pile on the floor, only realizing now that he forgot to grab pajamas. Making his way over to the walk-in closet and immediately going into Dazai's side corner, he looks around the section of clothes. It's not like the brunette owns much to fill a larger space anyways, so he can deal with what he has. Grabbing 2 large shirts, he throws one onto himself, feeling the way it brushes against his thighs, before he returns to the bedroom with the other article of clothing in hand. He shimmies the shirt onto his unconscious partner, mindful of how light he usually sleeps. Carefully, he lifts the taller up once more and puts him onto his designated side of the bed, pulling the covers out from under them and tucking him in. Then he gently shuffles under the blanket, watching Dazai's face to make sure he isn't going to wake up before relaxing into the brunette, pulling the mackerel's head into his chest while the other's hands lazily wrap around his hips. He squeezes the body on top of him tighter. They'll be able to talk about their issues in the morning. Tonight, he'll just focus on getting as much sleep as he can to better prepare for their conversation.